When I decided to do a podcast about figure modeling, I really thought it would be a blog. It'd be a journal. I would talk to my friends and viewers and tell them what happened today on the Models platform, what I experienced, how I felt, what was wrong, what was great. That didn't turn out that way. Turned out it was more of a service to people to talk about how to be a figure model. And not even how to be a figure model, how to get to be a figure model. Well, we're changing that today. I'm going back to Plan A, and I'm going to tell you what to do as a figure model. Welcome back to the Figure Model Podcast. I'm Rob Schendel, a professional male figure model here in Chicago. I've been doing it for many years. This is episode 9. Today's episode is brought to you by Audible.com. Get a free download of an audio book of your choice at audibletrial.com/Rob. That's audibletrial.com/Rob. Over 85,000 titles for you to choose from to download to your MP3 player or your iPod. audibletrial.com/Rob. I'll continue to tell you how to promote yourself, how to look for opportunities, how to be a better figure model and a more productive one. But I stumbled across something that really sums up a lot of what I feel and what I go through. I thought I'd share it to you. It's an article online, so if you drop me an email, I'll give you the address at the end of this episode. Ask for the article. I'll know what you're talking about. And actually, how to pose nude for an artist is, I think, the title of the article. And I came off of the website ehow.com. And I'm going to read it for you. It's how to pose as an artist's nude model. And I will tell you, it does say, difficulty, it's moderately challenging. It's written by a woman by the name of Carol McKenzie. Here goes. Nude paintings have been a part of the art world for centuries. Works by Rubens, Titian, and Botticelli's The Birth of Venus come to mind. The models who pose for nude paintings develop techniques to pose successfully. This article offers some steps to take to help you become a better model. Instruction number 1. Be comfortable with your body. If you're not willing to be nude, then modeling may not be for you. Artist models are not expected to look like supermodels. In fact, artists are looking for models with real bodies, real curves, not straight lines. Women sometimes have a hard time accepting this, but women with curves and shadows and contours can provide a more interesting finished work. Number 2, learn what makes a good pose. Dance and yoga poses work well, but you don't need to be a dancer or know yoga to pose. Artists are looking for angles, bends, shapes, anything that breaks up the symmetry of the human body. Look at art books, look at classical paintings for inspiration. You can ask the artist you're modeling for. If you're modeling for a class, ask the teacher if you'll be expected to create your own poses or if they will give you direction. Posing for a class usually involves holding poses for shorter periods of time, at least at the beginning of the class, to give the class opportunities to draw many different poses in a relatively short amount of time. That's the warm-up. You may be asked to hold a pose for a minute, then change to another for a span of 10 minutes, and this is a good time to do the difficult poses, the dynamic ones. I do that. Typically, they'll start you with 30-second poses, and then it goes longer, 30 seconds, a minute, 5 minutes, 10 minutes. That's when that's when the hard poses. That's when I do those anyway. Individual artists working on one piece of work will usually have a pose in mind and will ask you to hold that pose for the entire session. Prepare before a posing session. Do some stretching beforehand. It's much easier to get into difficult or twisted poses if you're limber. I've told you this before in the episode entitled Dirty, but here it is. It may be obvious, but take a shower beforehand. A clean model is much more pleasant to work with. Eat something before modeling. Typical classes are 3 hours in length. There is nothing more frustrating than getting hungry during a session. A rumbling tummy interrupts concentration. This is now suggestion number 6, and I don't know about this one. I've done it, but bring a robe or cover-up of some kind. In a student setting, you're almost never asked to disrobe in front of the class. You'll have a place to change into your robe, which you'll wear before the class. When you and the class are ready, you'll be asked to remove your robe. Sometime if the pattern or cut is interesting, it may be used as a drape in the pose. I'll talk about the robe in a future episode. If you're holding poses, number 7, if you're holding a pose for a long time, and typically 30 minutes is about the max that you'll be asked to before a break, choose a spot on the wall to focus on. It will help you after a break return to the same position if you have a reference point. Many times for long sessions when you're holding one pose, the artist will place masking tape marks on various places on the pedestal that line up with parts of your body, like where your feet are, or if you were sitting, where the point of your hip hits the pedestal, so that you and the artist can get repositioned in the same pose. It happens all the time. Number 8, when you're posing, if you need to move, let the artist know. They will usually let you stretch an arm or a leg if you're holding a difficult pose. Just don't move unexpectedly. Also, don't expect conversation while you're posing. Unless you're friends with the artist or know them and it's their habit, most artists get into some pretty deep levels of concentration. 9, and the final one. During your breaks, wear your robe or your cover. Some models are comfortable enough with being nude they don't bother, but even though the artists have been drawing you nude, they may not be comfortable with you walking around nude out of the model role. If you're interested in viewing the works in progress during your breaks, be curious and ask the artist first. Some artists are glad to let you see the work, but others are not comfortable with having unfinished work seen. Now, typically, during the breaks, my clothes are right there. I'll just pull my pants on, and maybe the shirt, but I'm probably not even buttoned it. But that's a pretty good article. It pretty well sums up what happens when you model. I apologize for the color variations in my complexion. I'm wearing a blue shirt, and the lights are such so that it works for like now. But then when the page goes on the screen that I have to read, well, that changes everything, and so goes my complexion. You can get that article yourself by writing to me at robshendo@gmail.com. Ask for the article on how to pose. Thanks again for downloading, and thank you for watching. I'll be back shortly with another episode of the Figure Model Podcast. I'm Rob Shendo.